When they went away, we were the ones that got their mail. We were the ones that collected their UPS. So we witnessed this. We witnessed this in life. In Surah Mu'minun, Surah 23 and 96, repel evil with that which is best. We are well acquainted with the things they say. Allah knows the things, brother, that your family says to you. But He encourages you to repel evil with that which is best. And I know it's hard. And I've been there. You know, when I first became Muslim and one of my family members said to me, "You cannot come to my house unless you change your name and your religion," I didn't really feel like going up and say, "Well, you know, I really love you and I'm so thankful that you could share that with me." MashaAllah. Because there's a human aspect in us. We are born with an uneasy spirit, and those things are painful for us. But as we evolve, our spiritual goal should be to emulate these verses. That these verses should be part and parcel of our conduct. This is the character of the Muslim. If this was the character of the majority of Muslims, there's no way that the press could be saying what they say about us today. How many agree with that? Yes, brother.
So you saying obey what Allah says and don't worry about what they do as long as you're doing your part.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're responsible.
Pardon, forgive, share your feelings. But you see, brother, if they upset us, if they move us toward anger.
And that's my problem. It's like,
right,
if I go around them, I've even told my mother, my name is no longer that. Well, that's on your birth certificate. I said my birth certificate's been amended. It's like, I'm not going to respect anything about you or what you say or this so-called thing. It's like, it's really hard to explain how this person supposedly had you or didn't raise you, and then it's almost like this hate she's always had for her, this arrogance she's always had for us when we were children, and now you're an adult, and now you change, and then it's like, you know, you're a Muslim, and it's like, because I had to explain to her aunt, I just worship Allah differently, and that's it. But yet, they can care less.
You know, brother, I feel your pain, and I want you to hear it loud and clear. And as people of Hub, people of love, this is where that story needs to be shared. We need to be able to come to our brothers and sisters and say, you know, I'm in pain. My parents have disowned me. And I want to share, I asked Susan for permission to share this story. But Susan went to her mother's 80th birthday party. And I was so happy that Susan was going to the party. And when Susan went, her mother said, "You take that thing off your head or I'm leaving." Have I got it right, Susan? And she said, "Okay, Mom, I'll have to leave." Now, to walk out of your 80-year-old mother's birthday party is painful. Because the older our parents get, the more we want our relationship to be whole with them. And I remember crying with Susan. Because I felt her pain. I knew that pain all so well. And if the masajid, if the Muslim community was the community of the brokenhearted, if we had these hearts of mercy so that people could come and we could put our arms around each other, not necessarily literally, but in some cases just be there for that brother or sister and say, "May Allah make you strong. May Allah give you sabr. I know how painful this is." But what we say to people is, "Oh, astaghfirullah, don't complain, astaghfirullah." And we forget about the human element. In Surah Al-Qasas, Surah 28 and 54. Twice will they be given their reward, for they have persevered, that they avert evil with good, and that they spend in charity out of what we have given them. So you see, whenever our family hurt us, after we become Muslim, we have to say, "I will be given reward twice." And that's why these are the verses that perhaps we should put on note cards And these are the verses that we should look at on a daily basis. Oh Allah, I want to pursue your pleasure. That's the purpose of my life. I want to pursue your pleasure. Give me strength and courage to adopt a Muslim character. A character that's forgiving and a character that's merciful. In Sharia, this diya, blood money, amounts to 100 camels, or 1,000 dinars, or 10,000 dirhams, or approximately 19 pounds of silver according to current weights and measures. Options: life for life, blood money, or forgiveness. These are the options that Allah has given. Blood money and forgiveness is a relief granted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Almighty is He in grace. Otherwise, they would have been no choice but to face the punishment of death. And this is the beauty of Al-Islam, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His mercy and His grace recognizes that we are in different places in our iman. One ahadith says that the iman of man changes 40 times in a day, a believer. How many of us, if we think about how many different moods we have, our moods affect our iman. When we're in a bad mood, our faith doesn't show up as much as it does when we're in a good mood, does it?
I plead the fifth.
Verses 178 and 179 point out that wise people should have no difficulty in seeing that the law of even retaliation does not take life. Instead, it gives life. For such a deterrent law will make people fear the punishment of killing somebody, and lives will be saved. Just the very fear that, well, what if my community can't come up with 100 camels? And today we know how a good defense attorney is about $450 an hour. Some are more. I wish Yazin was here today. Yes.
That said, retaliation, blood money, or forgiveness. Does that mean you can forgive and not ask for the money?
Well, the blood money is prescribed by Allah, because what happens is that Islam is a collective approach to life. It's not an individual approach.
Right.
So all of these prescriptions in an Islamic state were created to be a deterrent, or to put a message. So if I just forgave you, oh, you're forgiven, you killed my son, it's alhamdulillah, mashallah, then everybody would go around killing. And so much of the Sharia is about creating deterrence. Does that make sense?
It's kind of hard to do in this country, though, because if somebody kills somebody, it's not the family that prosecutes them, it's the state.
You're exactly right. No question about it. If you live in a non-Islamic state, and let me say this, that to my knowledge there is no Islamic state in the world today, because there's a lot of political corruption. We know that there is no justice in terms of female and slaves. If you go to certain countries, slavery still exists in Islam. They don't call it slavery, but certain societies serve, and those people are purchased with a price, and they are not treated with justice. And sometimes mercy is not meted out by those people. Yes, brother?
It's not specific just for murder, right? It's not.
This is specific to murder.
So that's what that value is for murder.
Right. Specific.
So what if it's something lesser, like?
You can always pardon. You can always forgive people. Now the problem is that if there is a hukum, an order from Allah, that something must be handled, then it must be handled that way, unless there is an exception. But you can always pardon. And you will see today, occasionally, there will be a great news clip on a family that forgave. It's very powerful. And I remember seeing one where a mother said, you have taken the life of my son, and I am praying for your forgiveness. I remember this. It was very moving. You saw this too. It was like, wow. Yes, but
There's situations that I've heard of too, obviously not for murder, but where it's resolved over a cup of coffee. Like that was done. There was no money value that was put up for whatever they did. Just that they got together and they had coffee together and discussed it, and it was forgiven.
and this is returning good for evil, which is a hukum. So, I mean, how great is that? If you look at Arab Spring, for example, these believers are not returning good for evil. They're fighting systems, and perhaps in a destructive way. Not perhaps, in a destructive way. I wanted to tell you the aspect of Nasul behind this, so that you would just better understand that this is a boring slide, but I think it's a very educational slide. The reason behind this statement is that the Jewish tribe of Banu an-Nadir invaded Qurayza, another Jewish tribe, during the time of Jahiliyyah, before Islam, and defeated them. Hence, they made it a law that when a person from Nadir kills a person from Qurayza, he is not killed in retaliation, but only pays 100 wasq of dates. However, when a person from Qurayza kills a Nadir man, he would be killed for him. If Nadir wanted to forfeit the execution of the murderer and instead require him to pay a ransom, the Qurayza man paid 200 wasq of dates, double the amount Nadir pays in diya, blood money. So Allah commanded that justice be observed regarding the penal code, and that the path of the misguided and mischievous persons be avoided, who in disbelief and transgression defy and alter what Allah has commanded. So this made it across the board justice. Not one tribe gets one kind of privilege and the other tribe doesn't. Now we have that today. We have white privilege in America. Now a lot of people struggle with this when I talk about it, but because of my skin color, I have gotten things that I did not earn in this country. Let's just accept it. There are times when I walk into a restaurant, an African American couple was there before me, and who do they want to sit first? You. Me. But I confront them and say, excuse me, but they were here before me. We know that systemically, white people in this country have privilege, and I know that really rubs some of you the wrong way. But do your research. Just Google white privilege. And if you read enough, read Darrell Wing Sue. He's a foremost scholar on cultural competency. Allah's statement, the free for the free, the slave for the slave, and the female for the female, was abrogated by the statement, life for life. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah 5 and 45, we ordained therein for them life for life, eye for eye, nose for nose, ear for ear, tooth for tooth, and wounds equal for equal. But if anyone remits the retaliation by way of charity, it's even called a charity. It is an act of atonement for himself. So by you accepting blood money, by you forgiving somebody else, it's expiation for your sins. How many could use a little bit of that besides me? And if any fail to judge by the light of what Allah has revealed, they are no better than the wrongdoer. So if you look at this verse, if you fail to be merciful, if you fail to expedite, realize and materialize this mercy, then you're no better than the one who has actually been the instigator of evil. That's what the verse says, right? I don't understand how the Muslim world can get where it is today. Did people never read this verse? In Surah Al-Isra, Surah 17 and 33, nor take life, which Allah has made sacred, except for just cause. And just cause is murder, treason, but forgiveness is better. And if anyone is slain wrongfully, we have given his heir authority to demand kisos or to forgive. But let him not exceed bounds in the matter of taking life, for he is helped by the law. In Surah 6, verse 151, say, "Come, I will rehearse what Allah hath really prohibited from you. Join not anything as equal with him. Be good to your parents. Kill not your children on plea of want. We provide sustenance for you and for them. Come not nigh to shameful deeds. Whether open or secret, take not life which Allah hath made sacred, except by way of justice and law. Thus doth he command you that you may learn wisdom." When you are working with your co-workers and they say, "I just don't understand how you Muslims," because they don't say Muslim, they say Muslim, or Muslims, which means something dirty, can kill all these people. You have to say, well, that's not the character of a Muslim. This is the character of a Muslim. This is what we're enjoined to do. They aren't Muslims, they're murderers. In Surah Baqarah, verse 180, we shift now to another subject matter. And this is the early legislation of making wills. Now this is another reason, brother, why you would know that this part was revealed in Medina. Because now it is being revealed to them on how to legislate that which they left behind. Okay? So it says, "It is prescribed for you when death approaches any of you, if he leaves wealth, that he makes a bequest to parents and next of kin, according to reasonable manners. This is a duty upon al-muttaqin, the pious. Then whoever changes it after hearing it, the sin shall be on those who make the change. Truly Allah is all-hearer, all-knower. But he who fears from a testator some unjust act or wrongdoing, and thereupon he makes peace between the parties concerned, there shall be no sin on him. Certainly Allah is all-forgiving, most merciful." Now, I want you to be patient with me because this is another verse that was later abrogated. And I'm going to explain that. So there was an original order of how to handle your money, and then later it came out exactly how to do it. And I'll show that to you. It's a little complex, but I want you to see it. Now, I'm also going to try to remind you that if you don't have a will and you have children, what will happen to your children if you die? God forbid, you and your I'm going to take you to the hearse. God forbid that you and your husband are both killed. What happens to your children?
Wards of the state.
They are wards of the state. Do you think they'll be raised Muslim then? Now, it's really sort of strange, but years ago, Sister Loran and I had about 5 people that came to us and said, "If something happens to us, will you raise our children?" And we had all these children that we were going to be raising. And we had to pray for those people because we thought we would go crazy. We had all those children to raise. So what I think they were really doing was getting us to pray for them. But they did. We had all these children that if anything happened to their parents, they had it legally written up. Then we want you to be their foster parents. Let's look at the verses here. Let's look at 17 children. Yeah, there were 17 different children.
I agree with the list.
Yeah. So it is prescribed for you when death approaches any of you, if he leaves wealth, that he make a bequest to parents and next of kin according to reasonable manner. This is a duty upon al-muttaqin. Then whoever changes it after hearing it, I read all this, right? Very good. Okay, we'll move on. Sorry, forgive me. So, wasiya means an order to do something, either in the lifetime of the maker or wasiya, or after his death. And basically, it's a will or a bequest. In commonly accepted usage, it refers to what must be done after death. It can be translated as the will or bequest. In early Islam, when shares in inheritance were not fixed by the Sharia, the rule was that a dying person could make a will within the 1/3 of inheritance. Now I know that doesn't make sense, but I want you to hold on to that thought. I'm going to explain it, inshallah. This was before Allah gave us more legislation. Okay? Leaving behind in the name of his parents and relatives whatever portion he chose. Then an abrogation came. In Surah An-Nisa, a verse that came in Medina legislating exactly how this should be done. And I'm going to explain this in great detail, inshallah. Allah commands you as regards your children's inheritance, to the male a portion equal to that of 2 females. People say, I don't like that. Why was it that way? Because the males were supposed to look after the females. Now, Dr. Taha and certain scholars who teach fiqh minorities and talk about unusual situations outside of an Islamic state, recognizing that if you don't have a practicing Muslim brother, he might not look after the sister. They talk about making these exceptions. So just keep that in mind. But just like, how many people here understand Southern farm inheritance? Anybody here know what I'm talking about? Okay. In my family, my grandmother's father left all of the farm, which was several hundred acres, to the brothers. The girls did not inherit. Why? Because in that time, they didn't think the girls knew how to work a farm.
No, they didn't.
That's what they thought. But the brothers were supposed to give the girls a piece of the profits, which we know often didn't happen. It still goes on, by the way, in the South. Oftentimes boys will inherit land. I'm thinking a very wealthy cousin of mine right now that has thousands of acres of land, and his sister was a lawyer, and she still was not able to get that will contested. So, 2 or more, their share is 2/3 of the inheritance. If only one, her share is a half. And I don't expect you to really get all this today because it's a little confusing. But I want you to see that Allah prescribed it. And there are people out there that can help you set up your wills Islamically. Keeping in mind that you do want to protect. And I'll give you some hadiths that justify what I was saying earlier about protecting the rights of women. For parents, a 6th share of inheritance to each if the deceased left children. If no children and the parent are the only heirs, the mother has a 1/3. If the deceased left brothers or sisters, the mother has a 1/6. The disposition in all cases is, after the payment of legacies, he may have bequest or debts. You know not which of them, whether your parents or your children, are nearest to you in benefit. These fixed shares are ordained by Allah. Now, if you were a new Muslim and you were reading the Quran, and you read first about the 1/3, and then you read this, what would you think? You would think there's a contradiction in the Quran, right? And this is why you need to understand that there are a number of abrogations in the Quran. Where a revelation came, it was addressing sort of the people of Mecca, and then when they went to Medina and they began to establish a Muslim state, the Quran came, a new revelation came. Similar to the one on alcohol. First, don't go to the prayers before, then consider these things, and then don't do it. Do you know how long? It was 8 years between that first revelation and last one. Allah was giving the Arabs 8 years to dry out. An 8-year AA program. Because He knew, Allah in His mercy. Yes, sister, sorry.
So is this an order from Allah that it has to be followed, or
order.
This is an order from Allah. However, as you'll see in some hadiths I'm going to show in a minute, there are some exceptions to the rule. And what fiqh minority scholars say is that if you seek the... I could not do this. I'm not qualified to do this. But say somebody like Sheikh Taha Jabbar al-Awani or certain scholars, you could seek their help and they would guide you through this. There are people that can guide you through this. Because, for example, reverts. And I'm just going to tell it like it is. People can say to me all you want to, you're my brother. But make no mistake, when it comes to their death, I'm not a brother. Because their will doesn't indicate that. So, for example, most scholars say that life insurance is haram. A lot of scholars say life insurance is haram because it's the best. However, look at me. I'm a revert. If I drop dead today, who's going to take care of my wife? But really and truly, now, let's say that I am in a home where, let's say the rent's $1,200, $1,500 a month, blah, blah, blah. Let's be real. Who's really going to take care of my wife? Maybe they might take care of my wife because she's so precious. But now the majority of people, let's keep it real, that become Muslim, sort of marginalized in the community, who's going to take care of you? So you can give me the brother stuff all you want to and the sister stuff. And since 2007, I've been focusing on convert care. We established this organization to care for converts. And then we found out there are people that embrace Islam that felt just as detached as we are. I have a responsibility. Look at other things the Quran says. How can I be the shepherd of my wife, the imam of my wife, and leave her high and dry? So I drop dead, and she's got nothing. I've got to look after her. That's my mandate from Allah. So you have to look at other commands of Allah in light of verses like this. Do you see what I'm saying? Did I answer your question, sister? Did I take it too far? I'm sorry. Yes, brother.
I have a question with regards to the inheritance. So, if we have the command from Allah with regards to how it's to be distributed, this is everything across the board. So, say for instance, like all my books, my policies, investments, left to all my, my wife and my children. That's everything across the board. It's not just talking about the money aspect, but everything that I'm leaving as far as inheritance. Right?
Well, you can do, and we'll see some hadiths about this in a minute. You can bequeath things before you die. And you can say, these are your books, I'm going to keep them in my house, but you love to read, none of the other kids love to read, I'm giving you my books. Because these are tangible things. And also I'm going to show you that, how many people have been to a janazah, and the person in the family would say, if there's anyone here that my brother or my sister or my father owes any money, please let me know. And I'll show you the hadith about why that's so important. I can't move on to the next station until my debts are paid. And that's not only my monetary debts. Sometimes it might be fasting I haven't done, and I've taught this in the class. I've taught you the rulings. I've given you the proofs for this. This is why we need to keep our prayers prayed. We need to keep our debts made to Allah. Every one of us in this room are going to die. I hate to break the news to you, but there's nobody exempt. And we need to be prepared. It's vitally important that we're prepared. Islam is much more than a religion, it is a way of life. Islam is guidance from God that directs us through life and, God willing, into the next life. It is for this reason that God also guides us through the process of death and dying. Death will come to each and every one of us. However, there are things we can do to make our passing easier for those we leave behind. One of those things is to make sure we leave an Islamically sound will. Now let me ask you a question. Can your will be signed by someone who's inheriting from you? Absolutely not. Good. You'll be surprised. I've asked that question before and people say, I don't know. Your will cannot be signed by someone who's inheriting from you. So you're laying up there in the hospital and you think the angels are on the way and you say, well, by the way, I need you guys to sign my will today. That happens to be two of my children. Can't work that way. There's a conflict of interest there. Islamists place great emphasis on both the laws of inheritance and making a will. Thus, there is compelling evidence that every sane adult Muslim should have a will. Here's some ahadith that I want to share with you about that. It is the duty of a Muslim who has anything to bequeath not to let 2 nights pass without writing a will. This is the urgency of having a will in Islam. Then once you get of the age of maturity in Islam actually it was puberty. In this country predominantly it's 18. Because automatically if you're under 18 and you die, whatever, if you happen to have a trust or something, it goes to the parents. A man may do good deeds for 70 years, but if he acts unjustly when he leaves his last testament, the wickedness of his deed will be sealed upon him, and he will enter the fire. If on the other hand a man acts wickedly for 70 years, but is just in his last will and testament, the goodness of his deed will be sealed upon him, and he will enter the garden. That's a powerful hadith about having a will, isn't it? But not only just having a will and saying, well, I've got my will, but making it Islamically sound. Being confident that you have put your heart into this. I have one that needs to be updated. This verse really spoke to me. We did a will years ago. But we need to update ours. Not that we have anything much, but...
Imam Simon?
Yes.
When you leave the will or write a will, prepare a will, and you have children that are estranged, for lack of a better choice of words, they still have a right to whatever you leave behind?
It's all addressed in that verse. Yes, they do. Yes. Yes.
Do parents have a choice, like what they want to leave for the son or the daughter, or they have to follow that?
This should be followed as closely as possible. In terms of tangible items, like, you know, my wife has a diamond ring that I gave her. I actually designed the ring. I don't think my son Bilal would particularly want to wear that ring.
So only tangible items, not the money?
The tangible items can be bequeathed before. The money and the property, and the way that it's done in sort of reality, we'll try to break it down. And this is why you don't want to die, and please correct me somebody if I say it wrong, intestate means you die without a will, right? Right. Because if you do, the state gets about 30% of your whatever you leave. And what really makes me sad about this, folks, is that we have such a need in the Muslim community. Let's say that you die and you have a $100,000 life insurance policy. Well, $333,000 would go a long way to help build a masjid. $333,000 would go a long way to help your children. I'm sorry, $1 million. Thank you, dear. Sorry. $33,333 would go a long way too if you have $100,000. Don't ever trust me with math. I don't know how I graduated with honors, but yes, brother, forgive me.
A lot of people plan their estates in order to avoid estate taxes. So one way to do that is if the husband or wife dies, they leave everything to their spouse. That way, it doesn't trigger any estate tax.
Right.
But that would, from my understanding, violate Islamic law.
I'm not a specialist on this. What I want you to do, and actually ISNA, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have a very good website to help people write their wills. I used to refer people to ISTA. As a matter of fact, it's really funny, but when I was a chaplain in the prison system, I got the inmates so scared that they all did their wills. It wasn't my intention, but I mean, I was just teaching them that this is an Islamic precept, it's something you should do. And oh my God, they just started doing everything, and ISTA was bombarded by, I'm sure that, I don't know if they ever found out it was Imam Sites, but they were bombarded by these inmates that had money that they had before they got to jail. So.
You can download a will at the Jama Masjid.
Now, Jama Masjid has a download. Susan is saying that, but I don't know how much advice you would get on certain details. What I'm trying to do is give you the best that I can give you because it is something that needs to be done. The Islamic will in Arabic, or wasiyya, is a set of instructions that come into effect after a person's death. The will is acted upon after the payment of funeral expenses and any outstanding debts. In Surah An-Nisa, verse 12, in what your wives leave, your share is half. If they leave no children, but if they leave a child, yet get a fourth, ye get a fourth, after payment of legacies and debts. That's why people get up and say that. Not only that, but because your soul cannot move until your debts are paid.
So what happens to the other half?
The children get it.
There are no children. It says if.
Then you get a, I'm not finished reading it. Give me a minute. And what you believe, their share is a fourth. If you leave no child, but you leave a child, they get an eighth after payment of legacies and debts. Now, like I said, it's very hard for me to explain all of these details. I would recommend that you go to ISTA, this is where I would recommend, and that you look for scholarly advice and seek the advice of someone that they recommend to give you what you need. I want to show you that there's an abrogation so that as a new Muslim or a Muslim that's studying this for the first time, you